Hello everyone, welcome once again to Monday Night Roundup here on Bloodbowl Live, your weekly catch-up of all of the week's action from the ADBBL. We've got a good few games to go through this week, and once again, I have friends with me. I am joined yet again by our regular pundits from the Gentleman's Collective. Scott, welcome back once again.
Evening, Christopher. Evening, sports fans. Evening, tea lovers and rats fans everywhere.
After his week break, back in the chair again, Tom from the Batfink Bloodletters as well. Tom, welcome back.
Hi, nice to see you all. Been travelling around, so I'm ready to get back on the hype train.
Awesome, and we have with us our very special guest, fresh from the Flumps, Scott, joining us this week. Scott, welcome to the Roundup. Thanks for coming along.
Hello.
You've got a game to go through this week, which we will get to, but we'll dive straight in with some of our other fixtures, and we will get started. If I start messing around with this, here we go. We'll get started in our group of death. We had 3 games in our group of death this week, and the first one to be played was Dead Star Belgrave versus the Tetanus Hotspews. Ended in a draw. I think probably if you're Jane or if you are I guess for me, I probably thought that a lot of these games, particularly between these big 3 that we had in here, I could see a draw coming for a lot of them because they're just such evenly matched coaches. Tom, did you sort of think one of these guys would stand out, or seeing a few 1-1 draws getting thrown in here, is that much of a surprise?
Yeah, no, I did think it was going to be pretty much even. I know that they're all very good players, so seeing them go to this length, and also equally, they've been quite average on the time as well, 2.5 hours really on the whole length of the game. So they obviously know their stuff. They already know their kind of plan of action. So yeah, I think they're going to be pretty much, static. I think a lot of these, and I think again, it all comes down to the roll of dice. If you get some good rolls, then that's going to make you break away.
I think looking at, I know that Dave went into before the tournament, before the league started, prepared all of his chainsaws, and clearly has took a chainsaw in this one, took Helmet with him, and Helmet got sent off just after the touchdown, but got some sort of good fouls in. Flump Scott, I'm going to call you Flump Scott, and then we'll go for Scott for our Gentleman's Collective. That seems the easiest way to do it today. As a kind of goblin coach looking at this group, 3 bashy teams, I guess probably for you, you're just kind of glad you're not in here with them getting bashed around.
Yeah, I mean, I just tend to try and bash back. I'm not sure goblins are bashy, but the way the casualties are going for me, I think I found a bashy team. So seeing other people take chainsaws and just go for it I like it. It might not be the best tactics, but it's great when it works.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to have worked in this game. There was a bit of a trade-off of stat busting. One of the highly skilled Pestigors, not the one with the bounty on its head, got agility stat busted. And in return, a Ghoul Runner got stat busted. Scott, the Ghoul Runner's kind of the pace in this team. I'm sure you know what it's like to lose some pace in a squad with Gutter Runners if they go missing. Dave can probably come sort of do something about that with a team that's just generally slower. Is it much of a miss?
I don't think so with Dave in particular. When we called this league out, actually in preview, we said as much as we were expecting League Nixon, we'll come on to that, to score a lot. We expected we said we wouldn't be surprised if this was a lot of 1-0s and 1-0s. And it's proven to be the case. A lot of equally matched coaches. Jane's in a tough group and she's really, really given them a good run for as well. But this was a really interesting match actually to watch in store. Very, very close. Doesn't look as if a lot's happened if you look at the tour play feed. Lots of stuns according to the guys as well. And it did get down to it, I think everybody sort of looked at it on tour play when it was going live and saw, Dave was 1-0 up. Mr. Phipps was sort of there, does what he did best with the turn 14, one late touchdown to equalize. And actually going into turn 16, when Dave was receiving, there was a good bounce of the ball and there was an opportunity for a one-turn touchdown as well there. So he could have won it. Unfortunately, the dice's pushes not being in place as they could. So it just shows how close and how tight this particular division is. And I don't think this is going to be settled until the last round of matches. Evening to JD in the chat as well. See, he's loitering with intent, which is good to see. I did speak to Scott, I think Coach Creedy's about this on Sunday, and obviously we'll come to the other results. And I think even though he's in a pretty, he's second in the division at the moment. I think he's got a lot on his mind as he contemplates how he's going to move the team going forward.
It is a tough one. I think this group is just screaming out for a wild card space. I think someone's taking that wild card, and I still think that. I think it's easy to look at it and especially when you look at the way the results have been going, it's easy to write Jane off. And I think if she's not going to get out of this group, I still think she could have a say in who does, based on how she what casualties she throws around. I guess not a huge amount of SPP. I think both of them would have maybe wanted a little bit more from this game. And looking at sort of how their teams are sort of damaged. Yes, Scott's missing that Pestigore. He's got 3 other Pestigores with skills. It's one of the better ones, but it's not the big guy. So it's it'll be interesting to see how they sort of move on from this one. And we'll move on to Dave's next game. Which is our next one to look at, which was against current champions, Iceborne Raiders, and another 1-1 draw. Again, not much SPP around, and casualty-wise, nothing really too terrifying by the looks of it. Helmut comes in again, so another chainsaw. I guess again a 1-1 draw. John didn't concede much last season. He's already conceded, I think, possibly twice or maybe just once this season. He only conceded 2 all of last season. Are we, 1-1 draws just keep happening here? Tom, is there anything sort of you kind of particularly picked out from this one? I mean, we had a late equalising touchdown from Dead Star Belgrave, and we had I guess surprising for John, not a turn 8 touchdown, turn 6 touchdown for this first half. So it looks pretty balanced.
Yeah, I didn't actually see this one, so it'd be interesting to get your input on this, because clearly the beer ball was sent off straight away in turn 1. And then does he have 2 beer balls? Because then there's clearly a foul happened in turn 8 by a beer ball as well.
Yes, he does. And I'm just noticing now that one is called IPA Sun and one is called Boreside. John, if you're watching, I've only just noticed, and I applaud you for those puns. Absolutely. Because I don't think John took any beer balls last season. I don't think he did. I might be wrong.
Okay. No, it looks like you say again, another relatively even match, very low kind of action packed from the tour play stats, but no doubt absolute hilarity with beer balls and unfortunately as an injured zombie lineman. I didn't know if that got a regen or anything like that. Well, no, it didn't die, but it just got an injury. He missed next game. So yeah, it seems very quiet again.
I know that John's been quite unlucky with the amount of regen that has just come back for his opponents, because he's had 2 undead opponents so far, and been quite unfortunate. Scott, we'll go to you. We'll go to you first. Just a thought that's just come to me on this one. When you look at the Iceborne Raiders squad, you've got tackle, kick, sure hands, tackle again, dauntless, kick, sure hands, guard, block, guard, leader, dodge and block on one of the Valkyries, dodge, block, juggernaut, guard. So, an awful lot of skills there. You look at the Hot Spews lineup, again, hundreds of mutations everywhere you can look. Dave is coming in with a new team, not redrafted, and getting, okay, it's only a 1-1 draw, but he is coming up against a lot of skill, and he's coming out of it with no problem.
I totally agree. I think at the moment, what Dave's, this is almost seeing these 1-1 draws. Okay, there's not a lot going on tour play at first glance, but when you look at the skills, you look at that have been given to the players and the upgrades. This is almost that classic one for the purists. It's that head to head. It's really going for it. A lot could happen, and the chances when they come along, they have to be taken, and the guys are taking them really well. So I think it's credible to within this particular group as well. It's kudos and shout out to the level and the skill set within the coaches as well. So if there's not a check in the post after any of them after that, I don't know what is. But yeah.
John is in the chat, so hi John. Thank you for watching, and has pointed out that both mummies got cashed. One got stat busted, but regened. So the regen is really coming up against again, not in John's favour, but it's not stopping him getting results. Flump Scott. John is our reigning champion. He's taken a draw out of this game, but he's got some good results elsewhere. He's looking pretty good to come out of this group. We will see a big result for him later on, or actually, we might go to that one next. Actually, do you see him going as far as he did last season, or as we saw last season, redrafts didn't do as well? Do we think that John is just going to plough through, or do we think that redrafts again? Because Dave is not redrafted and he's putting up a fight. How do you think it's going to sort of end, sort of from John's perspective?
So John's clearly a good player. Took the league last year, and these Norse, they're skilled up. Played Norse twice in my life. We'll come on to that game later, but the fact they got block, the Valkyries are they're solid, and with the extra skills he's got, leader was one of them.
Yeah, he's got some extra rerolls in there.
If those are random skills like the guard, leader, like kick is a great little skill, really underrated skill. I think with his knowledge of the game and the way they're rolling, their upgrades, I can see him pushing through to maybe a repeat. I don't think it'll be easy because there is a lot of people that are just skilled up to the wazoo throughout the entire league. But I definitely think he's in the shot.
Scott raised a good point there, Blunt Scott. In terms of how much skill, and we've all mentioned how much skill that John has got in these guys already. Look at that, he's got 3 rerolls, he's got leader, and then he's still got 175k in his treasury. So it's like, he can almost tailor this team now to whoever he wants to, and whichever the style of the opposition coach. One thing I was going to ask then, all the rest of us on this call, of this league, who would be the one team you wouldn't want to play, assuming people get through to the knockout stages? Who would be that team out of these 4 you go, no, I don't want to draw them on a piece of paper?
Out of this group?
Yeah. Put you on the spot there.
I think I would rather play. I would not want to. I wouldn't want to play Hot Spews.
I second that. As much as I want to, slap the store owner around a bit. There's too many mutations. I can't deal with all that. It's horrid.
I think John is very good. I've lost to John many times. I've lost to his Norse team relatively recently. But when you look at John's Norse team, I think you can kind of group the players up into what they can do and what they can't do, and it's quite I think it's easier to formulate a plan. And in the Hot Spews team, it is utter chaos with who's got what mutation, and I think it can get in your head and be more difficult to plan against. I think that's yeah.
I definitely agree on that, because it's that thing of, you know, the skills from the Norse team, because they are classic skills, aren't they? They are what the majority of the teams out there would take, you know. And I second the kick is a great skill there, you know, block, dodge. But when you go into like the Scott's tetanus hot spews, you know, I've never come across anything with very long legs or extra arms, or I don't even know what big hand means. So you start to go and have to spend more time reading a book than actually looking on the actual board, and then that's when things start to go wrong.
Yeah. And again, all credit to John. I don't really want to play him either, if I'm honest. But if if you're putting me in a corner, I would rather. I feel like I could plan better. We'll stick in this group, and we will go to the last game that happened in this group. They got a few games in, and this is a particularly good one for John. 3-0 victory over the Wolverhampton Shamblers. And the one thing that I'm particularly aware of from this group, from this game, is something that I wasn't sure whether it would. When we decided to do it, I didn't know whether it would be an obvious thing that would occur, or whether it would be a kind of subtle thing that just kind of happened, or whether it would be a games, you're losing a game or you're not doing well in a game, so you're just going to do this. But Jane's focus until the player was off the pitch was on the bounty and only on the bounty, to the point that I believe she had a one rush and blitz on the ball carrier to stop them scoring, or she had a double rush and blitz on the bounty, and she went for the bounty rather than preventing the touchdown. So not even a 50-50 scenario. You're going to concede if you don't do that route, and she went for the other one. Scott Flumps, do you have the same thought? If you play someone with a bounty, are you just going to go for that bounty?
I think I am. As we'll see when we get to my game, we'll get to it. But I made kind of the same decision. It was, one decision is going to impact the scoreline, the other is just pure bants. So I went for that, and I applaud Jane for doing it. But what was the bounty? What's the reward?
I believe the reward on the Valkyrie is a box of biscuits. I'm pretty sure totally. It's a box of like Christmas selection biscuits, which I'm all for. I would love it.
Yeah, no, I applaud that. So that is the decision.
Yeah.
Burn your rerolls, everything. Get the bickies.
Scott, you've got bounties in your group as well. We will talk about this game, but you've got players in your group with bounties. You've got Scott's gutter runner with a sausage roll up for grabs. When you played him last week, did you go for the sausage roll?
I was a couple of dice away from the sausage roll. I was ready to go with a 2 dice blitz on him, but obviously we had to call the game for other reasons. It does play there on the back of the mind. I can't deny it. I'm a bit gutted now that James has only put a sausage roll up on the bounty on this gutter runner, and then we've got a box of biscuits in the other league. I think there has to be a minimal threshold. Absolutely. Just in chat as well.
Just to say that, so the bounty is decided by the person who puts it up, and if you get that sausage roll, Scott, I will give you a batch. Don't worry, it will be a batch of sausage rolls rather than a single one. I promise you that.
In that case, I know what my game plan is for the next game. Just while we're in chat, while we're on the Iceborne Raiders and Jane and the Shamblers as well. Coach Acredes, given the comments we just said about the hot spews and his mutations, obviously his players' mutations, his own mutations are another medical condition, but he has come back and said he likes the sense of fear. So love it to that. And Phil's like, yeah, if the win is not possible, always go for the other prizes. Yeah, what do points mean? Don't go your leading, guys. Go. We need to practice on this. Come on.
I was letting other people say prizes.
It was rhetorical.
Uh, Tom, uh, firstly, touchdown or bounty. Secondly, Jane not having the best group this year.
I'm with Jane. I'm in. Well, I've only played one game so far, and it was terrible with the vampires. So I'm already looking for bounties already on my side of things, which is quite good because it brings out a new dimension to the league. Because as we've just mentioned, we've got some very very good redraft teams, and teams like Jane, who's just going for the bounties, is actually hindering John when he goes through. So he then has to start thinking potentially on a different level and maybe keeping some of his key players on the bench so they don't get hit.
Yeah, I know that that Jane unfortunately didn't kill the Valkyrie, but did make it miss next game, which is going to hinder John going forward. Looking at John's lineup, Valkyrie-wise, he does have two. The backup Valkyrie has dodge and block, so the only thing he is missing is he doesn't have two of them, and he's missing the leader reroll. But he's got some dodge rerolls sort of built in there. He's got sure hands reroll further up on a couple of guys. Scott, is Jane? Last week we talked about how Justin got through the group with three wins and 3 losses. That was his group record, and it got him out of the group. Jane is now 3 losses from 3 with 3 games left to play. I would love her to nab a wild card from these people and just nab a victory. Are we jinxing her by saying that, or is the competition in this group just too strong?
The heart says I still think Jane can do it. I think she can cause a lot of mischief in this group. The head says, the 3 guys she's against, I can see it being between them. I'd love her, to get those biscuits. I'd love her to create an upset as well. I think if she goes out in the ethos of, Phil's written it lovely in chat, risk it for a biscuit. You never know within this game what's going to happen as well. I think she could maybe cause a few difficulties to the others. And maybe if she goes out with a very laissez-faire attitude and just goes for it, maybe it'll give the other coaches a few worries and a few things to think about. And that's not going to be a bad thing.
I think that's a good shout, actually. Playing a bit differently will throw others off. And she could, if she doesn't get out of this group, she could make any last 16 opponent considerably easier for someone else if she can get some missed next games, get some deaths in there, get some lasting injuries. Great. We will jump on to the next one. Let's come out of here. And the next game that we are going to go to is our special guest Flumps 1-1 draw against Odin's Ravens. Flumps. Last week I think both me and Scott and Phil last week were saying that it's kind of difficult not to cheer for you because you've gone for such a kind of ballsy, strict stunty, going for anything kind of approach, and I'll be completely honest, I just assumed it wouldn't. I assumed pre-season that it probably wouldn't work because I thought there's so much things missing, but it's just kind of why is it working? Just tell me why it's working because I just don't get it, but I love it.
If I had an answer, I don't know. I think the low CTB value is my crux. I'm at about 760 all in. So the inducements are helping. And it's just, oh, they're only little goblins. Don't worry about those. You know, I've got 14 linemen, 12 linemen, 2 weapons, and then normally 2-star players. And it's probably those 4 positionals that are just carrying me through. They do all the work, all the damage, remove. I haven't had one turn 1 because I always like to punch. If I get the opportunity, I will punch off the line, and I'm getting a KO at minimum each turn 1, and it's just huge, removing someone off the line. But I don't know why it's working. I've only got 1 reroll. I thought, because let's keep the cost down, but like the whole idea is keep the cost down and just try stuff. If it works, it's goblin. If it doesn't, you're goblins.
Your loony in this game is looking very much like it's going to potentially have a bounty on it, considering it gave someone a niggling injury and then killed one of them as well. So yeah, I was lucky enough to see one of your games of previous against Skaven, where you nearly pitch cleared them with just stunty goblins. It's incredible.
I nearly got JD. You have 3 players left, and like you were talking with Jane, where she went for the 2 rush blitz for the bounty. JD tried an absolutely ridiculous throw. He had the ball in his end zone. I had all of my players in his third of the field. His Valkyrie ran straight at me, launched it 12 squares as far as you can launch it, natural 6. His catcher rolled natural 6. We're then like, hang on, I think I can intercept, even though I'm a stunty player. So I had a look. Oh, has to be a natural 6, which I got. And then converted that into a catch on a 6. There was 4 6s rolled in a row. And it went from me chasing this Valkyrie down to just the most ridiculous play passage, which I then buggered up, and the Valkyrie ran the length of the pitch and scored anyway in 3 turns. So it's an absolute ridiculous game.
It is incredible, and I think JD's new to this Norse team. Again, we know that JD is watching, so hi JD, thank you for watching. I think going into game 1 against you, where I believe it was a 1-0 win for the Goblins in the first game. Have I got that right?
Yeah, somehow.
I think anyone would probably be a bit sort of downhearted after that one. But then seeing your performances in the following games, probably then coming out of this with a 1-1 draw, coming out with it with a couple of casualties, because I know JD loves to punch and hurt things, coming out with it with 12 SPP as well on a few players, probably sort of feeling better about this result, because you do kind of look like you're running away with this group a little bit, because people aren't taking points off each other as well. So do you see this continuing? Is it just hopeful that it will continue? 11 points, possibly enough for a wild card, even if everything went to pot now. But you're getting the casualties, so confident that we're getting to playoffs?
I just wanted to retain the Stunty Cup. That was the whole idea of this silly team. I've got the Stunty Cup. I'll go pure Stunty. Let's have fun. But now it's like, it might be on. It might be on. It might be. The wheels are going to fall off, and it's going to be spectacular, and I'll get pitch wiped, and that'll be it for me. I'm going to come up against that one team that will just turn me into paste. But until then, I'm just going to ride my luck and just take as many secret weapons and bribes as I can.
Yeah,
great. We've got another Goblin game that we will look at further down.
Just before we leave that, just to say, I've just put it in chat, and if JD, if you're on there, just be interesting, because we were talking about bounties. Are you going to put a bounty offer on any of the flumps? And if so, what's your level? What's your sort of remuneration for people, that the incentive? And then just to let it out and show how good the game was between the flumps, and the Ovalks, the guys there in JD. Speaking to Scott in store, and he said that was the best play he's seen this season and for a long, long time. So just, kudos. We're all loving the flums, Scott, so no pressure, but just keep it up. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, fucking JD. Maybe. So we'll take that as legally binding, JD. Maybe a bag of marshmallows. That's done, yeah.
So the bounty on flumps is 4 flumps.
Perfect.
That kind of adds up, doesn't it? That kind of makes sense. Long may it continue. I very much hope that we see more chaos from them. Yeah, it's absolute. It's so entertaining. Every time a game comes up, it's so entertaining to keep an eye on. We will go next on to. I think we will go. Let's see who we've got. Let's go from goblins to goblins. So let's do a game that's going to look a bit weird on tour play because we had to admin it because we had some tour play issues. 2-1 victory for Amazons against Robert's Kraken Skull Cannoneers. The Flumps, we'll start with you because obviously you're playing goblins. Looking at your group with dwarves, with dwarves, with Skaven, with Norse. Looking at Robert's group with Khorne, with dwarves again, and with Amazons. Do you think you would be having the same results if you were in this group? Do you think this group, like on paper, the opposition is any more difficult or any easier? Like, are you glad you're the goblins where you are, or would you happily trade?
Start of the season on paper, I think I would have preferred Kraken's group. There's just less block as standard. I believe Norse are full of blocks, dwarves are full of blocks, so there's less block and less tackle, which is the big one. But I don't know. I don't know why mine's working. I was in store for when this game was on, and I could overhear it and just the amount of dice that were being thrown by the goblin player, and I was just like, it's really weird watching goblins play from an outside view because I'm having a whale of a time when I'm rolling dice, but just watching it, I'm like, there's just so much going on. It's just dice, and then hilarity. His chainsaw was going for it, and then it was beautiful to watch. But yeah, hit and run is a solid ability against weapons. You just run. So.
It's a very different goblin side. It is a maximum team value goblin side. 2 trolls in there. So has the 1-turn touchdown option that you don't have on your side, and not redrafted, but you didn't come into it with many skills. So a few skills that he's got already: sneaky get and diving tackle. Diving tackle, I don't know. I'm 50-50 about it, sort of all the way. Sneaky get on an hooligan.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds pretty good.
Before the FAQ.
Tom, looking at this game then, if we are, it's always kind of sad to think of it, but if we are, and Scott is ruining this entire comment right now, but if we are to assume that the stunty teams are the kind of the ones that are going to struggle the most to get out of this group, with the not much pace of the Khorne team and the not much pace of the dwarfs, do you think that the Amazons should be pretty good to just run around and get out of this group?
Yeah, because they've got dodge and everything, haven't they? So, and I know that this is a redrafted Amazon team as well. So they've got some extra skills already built in. So they've already got a number of team members with block as standard. So we've got 1 Jaguar blocker, got both, actually 2 blockers, 1 blitzer, and also a line woman with block as well. So you'd think that that's going to be pretty straightforward. However, I do believe they do have, they've got the numpties in that division as well. And we know what Elliot's like with his dwarf team. So it's a very difficult one to kind of predict on that side of things. I just hope that the goblins have as much fun as you are with your flumps, I assume.
It's
It sounds like it.
looking at the Amazon team. We know that we'll go through the full match next week when they finish it. Amazons versus the Numpties did start a game. They weren't able to finish it, but they sort of paused it and they're gonna log it all for another time. So we'll look at it another time. In that game, Amazons are currently 2-1 up, and it is midway-ish through the second half, and there are not many Amazons left on the pitch. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that result comes, whether Elliot is stoppable in this group, as it looks like it might be. Scott, you are you're running a pacey team. Not as much dodge in your team as there is in the Amazons. Did you? I mean, Kraken Skull Cannoneers got a touchdown in, so it wasn't a complete walkover. I don't know what turns the touchdowns were on because they're all kind of just sort of logged on here. What's your kind of thoughts on this matchup?
I think it's been a good match for Chris, and I'm not going to pronounce the names. Call them the Big Macs, as they always there. I think that, as you know, Tom mentioned, they've got a lot of block and a lot of dodge now across the park as well. So I think the result for the 2-1 was a good effort by the Cannoneers, especially as they're up against very good coach in Chris. I think he's a bit of a dark horse coming through as well. He's also, I know he's 2-1 up because he was playing against Elliot and they paused it on the game next to myself and Tom on Friday night. He's playing very well. He's got a ridiculous amount of SPP as well to invest. So even if Elliot, we know Elliot's very good from last season at, turning it around towards the end of a match. So even if it could end up being a 2-1 win still to the Amazons. It could be 2. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 3 to the Dwarves. No pressure there, Elliot, but wouldn't be surprised. So he puts, I feel, Chris in one of those positions where he's going to come through. He's going to have a lot of opportunities to fine-tune this team into the knockout stages as well. So I think he's looking very good at the moment. I mean, what's he got? He's got 3 players with at least 4 SPP. That Piranha Blitzer, I'm not going to pronounce the name, but you got dodge, hit and run, jump up, sure feet, block, sure hands, and you still got 9 SPP to spend as well. He's looking good. Very, very impressive.
I think Phil and Robert will be keeping an eye on this on that game between the Amazons and the Dwarves to see how that ends, because for both of them it could suddenly blow things wide open, because if suddenly Chris is looking like a good competitor, the games between Chris and Elliot could open some doors depending on what they do to each other, and how that sort of affects what people can do against them. So yeah, it will be really good. Phil is in the comments. He's being quite negative based on his first game, which we went over last week. But Phil, you can get out of the group. You can get out of the group. There's wildcard spots available. Remember it. We will
just on that, Chris. Sorry, just in the chat, just to Elliot's response. Elliot, there is no try. There is do or do not, mate. Come on. You go to A&D and you don't know your Star Wars canon. Come on.
We will go on to our last 2 games.
Do you need a moment of silence just before we do? What was that? Just for Scott.
Scott, do you want to swap that tea out for something stronger before we start?
There's already something stronger in there. Yeah.
Let's go for Castlevania Bloodthirsters first. Then that was the first one of the 2 games played. And Scott, I will I'll hand over to you. Tell us how it went, and tell us why you have inflicted a vampire team on the world that now has 2 players with block.
I would like to say it's down to years of skill practice, but it was Tom played very, very well. on Friday nights. He really did. He's playing it with the 4 vampires. So he had, he had the runners, blocker, and the throwers as well. And he was just playing it very, very good. He had the 4 re-rolls. He played his bloodlust exceptionally well. So the only times he failed his bloodlust was at the end of his turn anyway. So it didn't really make a difference. I had the Roger out. Simon had taken him out the match before, and that real lack of power was very, very evident for the Skaven. Had to take a couple of linesmen as well. So, your strength 3 across the board tops, 3 strength 2s with your gutter runner. And it did get to a place whereby at one point, I think I had 6 on the pitch. Only 1 was a gutter runner as well, despite the APOC's best efforts. So it was going very, very well. Tom did everything solidly. Couldn't get any dice, couldn't get any KOs. I had 1 KO against Tom. He actually KO'd one of his own players because of bloodlust. So he probably did more damage to himself than I even did. So it really just felt Tom was playing it solidly, knew what to do, played the vampires really, really well. So shout out, Tom, if you're in the chat as well tonight. And it was really difficult. And that sort of theme we'll come on to talk when we talk about, playing against Harry and kids play as well. But it was very good. I mean, the first touchdown that he got, at the end of turn 5, Skaven tried to do a cheeky dodge up the side. The ball got hit. Fortunately, didn't get served. The ball went off and it bounced back straight towards one of his vampires in his thrower, and he went in. Rightly so. And after that, it was a chastening experience against vampires. Very, very much so. So if you're going to play Skaven, you do need a bit. It feels this particular league this year feels like there's a lot more in terms of the rerolls for me personally were very painful.
Tom, you are our resident vampire coach. Um, how do you kind of look at this one? Are you kind of looking at the way that Tom has set up his vampires? Are you sort of taking anything from it, or are you kind of going down a different route with your team?
No, so I'm pleased that he's done very well. He's got an identical setup to myself with 2 throwers, 1 blitzer, and a runner. Clearly, he's had a lot more luck with the dice because I just had so many 1s in my game with the bloodlust, which was just ruining my match, as well as playing against elves. So I'm really pleased that he's done really well, and I'm very impressed that he's got 2 blocks both on the throwers. Those are going to be some tough characters to defend against. So yeah, really, really good. So just a little question to Scott. How many times was there bloodlust, and how was he actually playing and biting, or was he going, well, okay, well, I'll wait till the very end. I've bloodlusted, and that's my turnover, and I'll lose tackle zones.
No, he was sort of, I'd say, doing 2 bloodlusts per turn. So he was getting there. He had 4 re-rolls, which always helps as well. Plus, I think on one of the kickoff events he had a team re-roll as well, so it really helped him as well. And he's really going for it, and he played it well. He didn't overcommit, and he was. I found it as strength 3 with Skaven really difficult to get through, really difficult to get in as well. And again, even if I was rolling armor, just going for the thralls with the 3+, so you're getting at least the 1 dice, with an assist, you're getting 2. It was a challenging one as well, particularly. But
Flumps, you've avoided vampires, as have I so far this season with your group. All the vampires were sort of grouped together with Tom, with the exception of this one. Because of that, have you sort of seen any of the vampire games, or sort of aware of the bloodlusts? Would you feel confident with the goblins that you would, based on how you're playing, that because there's only the few strength 4 in the team, I think this one only has the 3 strength 4 players, Any extra concern from you, or just another team to bash and attack?
As long as I've got ball and chains, I'm happy to fight anything. So, but the negative roll, the bloodlust, any roll that you to activate a player, make a roll. If you fail it, well, that's you. Having run chainsaws and weapons and trolls last season, like it's risky and it's really annoying when you go for the blitz that you need to happen and you've done everything else right. You've got everyone in a position, fail it, and that's it. You know, you So I don't know. I'd like to have a go at them because I think it'd be very funny, but I'm not sure if there'll be much tactics. It would just be blood.
I think Mike Tyson said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. I think for vampire, everyone has a plan until you start rolling ones. So that's the problem with them.
Well, Scott, have you recovered from that one?
I thought I had, except Tom, and with no warning, just talked about rolling ones, and I just felt you turning the knife now, Tom. Especially when I tell you what happened then the following match. So yeah, it was very, very chastening experience, shall we say? So the only thing I'd say about the blood, just on the bloodthirsters from Tom is he's got, again, very much like Chris and the Amazons, he's got a lot of areas where he can take this team now, and it's going to be very difficult. So I think he's in one of those positions where, as a coach, it's almost, I've got a bit of a buffer, I've got a bit of a resource within my team, because he can still recruit. Yeah, he could. I think he's up to 12 now on his roster. So he could get a few thralls. He could even, look to take another vampire. So I know Andy started with 5, so it'll be interesting where he goes. And then it'll be interesting. What's your plans, Tom? Are you going to just max out your thralls, or are you going to get another vampire next? What do you think? And then I'll come on to have therapy session too.
I think for me it's going to be another thrall, because I've got. I just need them. I just need them in my team. I'm interested, and we'll move on to yours in a second. But my next game is against the other vampire team, and the other vampire team is the whole box. So that's all the throwers, all the runners, and all the blitzers. So they're going to be vampire heavy. So it'll be interesting to see how they play that team. Whether they bring all of the vampires out on the first turn, or whether they hold some of them back in reserve. Because, as I say, you start rolling bloodlust, it really starts to spread out the group. And especially when you're playing against agile teams, is that classic thing is you start to group all together because you just got to bite things, and you can quite easily go around the outsides.
That's a good thing, actually.
Vampire coaches. Sorry, Chris. Just a quick question. Are any of our vampire coaches taking a Vargeist this year? Or you got plans to take a Vargeist? Has anyone in chat wanted a Vargeist?
I did test out one. In fact, I think I tested against you, Chris, didn't I?
Yes.
And I think you cotted on very quickly that if you get it down, it's very difficult for the thing to get back up, because it's got movement 5 and bloodlusts every 5 minutes. So not only you don't need to babysit them, we have to babysit them. So you can just knock it down, move away, and 9 times out of 10 you still have to have a thrall next to it, so get it to stand up.
I think that's something I hadn't thought of, actually, is if you do take a full roster of vampires, is this, like, normally you will field all your good players, and you will have maybe some linemen in reserve, sort of waiting to come on. When you've got a vampire team, to save on how much bloodlust you're doing, if you've got 6 vampires, do you field 3, have an amazing bench to come on if you need them, and just minimize the amount of bloodlust that you've got to roll? That I hadn't sort of thought as an option.
One of the things I'm looking forward to in our group, and keep an eye out this, guys, this will be an interesting one. Harry, who will come on to talk about next with his chaos, of course, I was a strength 3 going against strength 3 thralls and a strength 4 vampires. Harry's going to be playing him strength 3 and a lot more strength 4, and he's got his Minotaur, as well, still around as well. So it'll be really interesting, and we'll talk about the games, or if that leads us, go to the therapy session round 2, in terms of, how Chaos and how Harry was playing his Chaos, and he played them very, very well indeed.
We'll go on to your next game now, and Tom, I'll let you pick the first delicate question to ask Scott about his next game here.
Yeah, so are you going to be taking those dice in your next game?
I probably. I just, they've got to turn around somehow. They really, really have to. So I played, Chaos Chosen. Really, again, a strong side. I had the Rogue back. Harry won the kickoff, elected to receive, kicked him the ball. And if you want an abject lesson in terms of caging, Harry is for me now the prince of cages. Not just 4 players around the ball carrier, you're talking 9 players around the ball carrier. So it was like, if he could, it was really a challenge to get through coming up the pitch. He played it well. And again, so I was rolling the dice. If both of us actually, which is why I did see the Flum Scott's comments on tour players, like not enough brutal deaths and not enough carnage. They were, where there were knockdowns, I was getting no armor breaks. If I was maybe getting some stuns, Harry was getting a couple of stuns. I think we had 1 or 2 KOs during the match, and that was it, and both on the Skaven. If I failed 1 roll, I failed loads of rolls. I failed dodge outs. I failed 3 up dodge out for Skaven. Failed plenty of those, and it was just ridiculous. Hadn't had that for a while. And he got to the point where Harry went down the pitch, literally a block of chaos coming down the pitch towards Skaven, tied up the Roger, not going a lot of places with that as well. And he scored. And I actually didn't touch the ball until my turn 6. Didn't have possession until I just walked it down. I think he's been having a bit of influence from Acredes at the moment in terms of a bit of a little stall on a couple of turns towards the end, and then he walked it in. I did manage to get his Minotaur down, but didn't do anything with it. And then I set up for my first drive on turn 6. I went for the heavy flank offense. I thought, let's go for a Skaven 2 turn, see where we can go from this. And basically, my thrower, and if everybody knows a Skaven thrower, they're rather good on their day. So he's got on the ball, so you can move the 3 right next to the ball. You go onto the ball, you roll a 1, you re-roll, you roll a 1. Boom, you're gone. So that was my first half, yeah? Didn't have the ball. That was it. I scored again at the beginning on my first drive, 2 turns, as you can do with Skaven. They can be very fast and very agile. But the amount I failed in terms of rolls, I had an opportunity, which by that time I missed in terms of the sequencing, and, call out to Harry. He played it very well in his first season, knows it, but he obviously plays a lot of it on online with Bloodbowl 3. And he did very, very well indeed. Shout out to him. And it was a lot of fun. Again, the community, the fun, the entertainment was all there. Apologies for the lack of apparent carnage to all the watchers, Yeah, I know. You were sending your photo, Scott. Yeah, there's the super cage.
I mean, that is. I mean, like Flumps. This is Harry's 3rd game of Blood Bowl. I know Harry plays. There's other games Harry plays, but this is Harry's 3rd game of Blood Bowl. He had 1 practice game. He had an impressive draw against last season's semi-finalists in his first ever competitive game. He's come into this one. He's taken a 2-1 win. It's an incredible start.
Yeah, Harry's the reason I joined this league and found the shop. In all fairness, so it's his fault I'm here. So, but yeah, I said to him like at the start of the league, like. Or, when he was choosing a team, what are you going to go for? And he's just like, I just want to punch things. I was like, I like that. I'm on board with that. And he'll always be messaging me during his games, being like, "I punch his stuff," and he's like just going for it, like his paint scheme and everything. Just the whole vibe of his team is great. He's playing really well and just fearless. Like, plus Miles' Minotaur is probably going to mutate into something mean. I think both big guys got MVP in that match, the Roger and Minotaur.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
So that could be fun.
Yeah, it's always great when sort of new people join the league, either brand new players or not new players, but just sort of new to the league in general. It's always good to see, and to see someone come in and just sort of immediately hit the ground running and are having some good games, and clearly picking some things up, because they're clearly they're clearly caging, they're stalling stuff that I mean, Tom, by your second game playing Blood Bowl, were you caging the ball up strongly, stalling? Like, I 100% wasn't.
No, absolutely. I never played it online or kind of on the board. I had a couple of games playing on the board, and then I joined the league. So yeah, it's interesting because my thoughts were why did you go for Chaos Chosen? Because it's not naturally the, shall we say, the beginners team, but actually looking at the team itself, it is a really good starting team because you don't have to worry about a lot of skills that you have to kind of memorize or try to work out what the best way to use them, how to pair players up. You've got a whole load of linemen with one skill, horns, which just gives you that little added extra when if you're blitzing. He's got three chosen blockers, now one with block, and obviously that Minotaur in there. So there's a lot of fun in that team, I think. And it's like, that's quite good because in my first league, I took Orcs. So I played it relatively safe as well. Something bashy that you know that can take a pounding but still stand up and move around. So it was interesting to see. And it's also good to see new players coming in with new ideas, new tactics.
He's
But
done.
one thing I did ask, sorry, Chris, one thing I did ask Tom, I asked Harry that question yesterday, and I said, why did he choose Chaos Chosen? And he gave the most eloquent, beautiful Blood Bowl answer. He said, I just like to walk up and punch people in the face. Like poetry.
It's great. He's done, like, it's even having the patience to not randomize your skills. I really struggle with. I always know that it's sensible. I know that it makes sense, but I always end up randomizing it, and I get some really good stuff and I get some bad stuff. He's being patient. Chosen blocker with block, a fantastic skill. Juggernaut on the Minotaur is another great call. He's got lucky with his stat bust. It was a passing stat bust on a Beastman runner. You're not going to be doing much passing there anyway. And he is building up SPP. He could do 1, 2, 3. He's got 3 players that he could randomize a skill for at this point. And he's being patient. He's sitting on it to sort of pick what he wants. I'm just very impressed. It's sort of some control that I don't have, and this is my 4th season, so it's really impressive.
So, Chris. So, question to Scott: is this a tighter group than you thought it was going to be, or is this how you expected it? Clearly not with your scores, unfortunately. But were you expecting it to be as close as it is?
No, when we did our predictions, we said as much as we thought, the Iceborne Raiders and the Undead and the Creedies would be like the 1-0 and 1-0. So this could be possibly quite a free flowing, lots of touchdowns. So it's been the complete reverse in that, which is why I am really looking forward to see the Vampires versus the Chaos. It's a bit more strength heavy. It's going to be very entertaining. Harry's playing it really, really, cagey, no pun intended, but he's playing it very well indeed. Tom's very good, strength 4 and strength 4s, it's, going to be very good. I'm looking forward to it. So it has been a role reversal. And if we look at the rest of the matches now, I think for myself, Simon's probably in a bit of a stronger position. But I'm just going to, go back to this time last year in season 5. I had to win realistically the last 3 because it's myself, Sam, and his Orcs in terms of who's going to go through. And yeah, I fortunately won the last 3 with some bonus points, and that's what I've got to look at the moment for this year. So for me, it's just going to be my old adage: if in doubt, what would Chris Coe do? Just dodge, 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 and everything. Like Chris, I'm that sort of person. If you've got a present, you've got to unwrap it. You can't keep that till Christmas Day. If you've got a beer, then and it's got a bottle open, you can't leave it. You got to drink it. And if you've got SPP to spend, just press that random button. Just see where it goes. So it's going to be very entertaining for the next several matches.
We'll have a look through. We'll fly through the groups now. That's our last game of the week. Looking at the groups, Johnson is as was, no games played in that one, so I'm clinging on to the top position there, but Dave is not going to let me keep that for very long. Flumps sitting comfy at the top of Bifford at the moment on 11 points, looking like currently unbeaten as well. 4 games played, unbeaten, so a very good position there.
I think that's unbeaten in like 8 games now, or something silly.
It is a long.
It's a lot of draws.
It's
a lot of draws.
Odin's Ravens looking good in second at the moment, but a lot of games left to play there. Vermouth is as it is. No new fixtures played in that group. Tetanus Hotspews clinging on to second there. Iceborne Raiders top in their division. Dave, 2 games, 2 draws. I think he'll probably be happy. See something you can build on there. Jane, sadly, not looking great with 3 losses, but 3 games still to play. We know that is enough. Shawbrook, no new games played in that group, so Buffalo Biggins still sitting top there. Nicholson, those vampires are looking pretty good at the top of that group at the moment. Kid Gloves in second, but Rats could score a lot, and there's 2 Rat teams there, so let's see whether Word Hollow and the Gentleman's Collective can get some touchdowns in. Phil says we don't need to do Murder Rat group, but we will. Numpty's sitting top at the moment, Amazon's sitting in second. And the Gilded Knights currently joint on 0 at the bottom with the Kraken Skull Cannoneers. And one thing I will show on the screen, which I think is not this one, it's this one, is my table that is ready to go to track the wild cards this season. If the season were to end right now, and we were to stop all games and we were to just look at just go straight into playoffs. Currently, Word Hollow Wanderers sitting in a playoff position, and Dead Star Belgrave as the two best third place at the moment. Phil, I'm sorry, it is in red because there is also the battle for the wooden spoon, which is close, to be fair. Currently, Phil is taking a wooden spoon home with him, which, hey, it's a trophy. But there's, like I said, plenty of games left to play, so we'll keep an eye on that as the season goes on. The last thing to shout out before we go is shout out for all Aardvark's players this season. There is a tournament which is a combination of Aardvark's and the Ipswich Bloodbowl League. Which is, feel free to join if you so wish. It looks like it's going to be a fun little tournament. Just simple knockout. Don't need to pay for it, and it will just be kind of an addition. Think of it like the FA Cup, sending your reserves in to see whether you can get a giant killing in the FA Cup. That is on Tour Play. It's the Interbibble Cup, and registration is open for that if any Aardvark's members want to join. It looks like it being a bit of fun. There it is, Interbibble Cup. So feel free to go on there and have a little look for that as well. And that is it for our roundup. That's all of our games. Thank you to Tom and Scott, our my very own personal Alan Shearer and Micah Richards. I'll let you guys decide which ones you want to be. A huge thank you to Flumps as well. Scott, thank you so much for joining us this week to go through your games and everything else as well. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
So a huge thank you to everyone. We will see you next week for another roundup full of games. I'll either be really happy or really sad by that point. Let's find out. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.